I was messing around on career mode the other day when I remembered a little feature that I haven't seen for years. I decided to see if it was still in the game. It's the one where the board will replace players in your squad if your squad gets too small. So if you go under 18 players, which is of course 11 players on the pitch and 7 substitutes, the board will sign another player for you to fill your squad with. You might be wondering where I'm going with this, but just hold on for one more minute. I opened my list of every player in the game, I ordered them by club and saw which club had the most short contracts on average. Drogheda and UCD, both in Ireland, seemed to be first and second. I simulated a full season, and at the end of the year, when all of these contracts expired, the board went and signed me a bunch of new players to make sure we had a full squad. This gave me an idea. Would it be possible to have an entire career mode save where the board signs all the players from you and all of your players run out of contract every single year? It turns out you can do exactly that. Today I'll be telling you how to do this, plus 2 other challenges that will really test how good you are at FIFA. Anyway, let's begin with some tips for starting this first challenge. The first thing you're going to want to do is try and find a team that has a lot of players whose contract is expiring this season. This will mean you get a lot of players leaving and joining at the end of Season 1. If your team has a lot of players on multi-year contracts, you're basically going to be just playing regular career mode until these start to expire. So FIFA is a really good place to find the right team for your save. You also need to make sure you're really careful with the amount of money you're spending. You won't be able to sign any new players for your transfer budget, but the board will offer players quite large wages. This can mean you'll run out of cash pretty fast and your objectives might fail, resulting in a sacking. You also need to keep an eye on your players' morale. If they're not happy, they're more likely to request the transfer and they'll leave the club in that way. Don't be afraid to make some tough decisions in your save either. I think it's reasonable that you can probably do some swap deals as long as no cash is involved and you want a certain player to strengthen your squad. It could be a fun way to add a bit of a twist to this save idea. And finally, of course, have fun. This is a challenge, but it should also be enjoyable. If you start to get bored, maybe break the rules by offering a couple of the players 2 or 3 year deals just to keep them around a little bit longer. I've not got a really catchy name for this challenge, so let's just call it the Free Agents Challenge. The challenge really comes from having no input on the signings you'll receive. If you limit yourself to only offering 1-year contracts, you can gamble on letting a contract expire and receive a new player, but then you might end up with 5 goalkeepers and no strikers. The pure randomness is what makes this challenge so fun. If you don't think this kind of saves for you, maybe the next one will be. It's a bit more dynamic, with you being able to sign players and use your youth academy, but it's also focused on forcing you to have quite a high squad turnover. So here is the rules. The first thing you have to do is try and pick a team from a minor European league that doesn't currently play in the Champions League. You'll have to win your league, your cup, and the Champions League by the end of Season 8. But this is where it gets tough. You're not allowed to buy any player from the French League 1, from the Spanish La Liga, from the Italian Serie A, the English Premier League, or the German Bundesliga unless they're over 30 years old. You also have to sell every single player when an offer comes in from Ligue 1, La Liga, Serie A, the Premier League, or the Bundesliga that is over the value of your player. This idea for a save came from an old Reddit post that I saved on my account years ago. The original idea was to use the Belgian league because players can disband their contracts in real life by paying a small fee, so clubs are forced to sell a player when a certain offer comes in. I love the Belgian league, so I do recommend you try that, but I'm sure Portugal, Netherlands, Scotland, Poland, any other league in Europe will be just as fun. The real challenge here comes from having to find players from smaller leagues than yours, while any big team can take your star men from you instantly. I also like this challenge because there's no role-playing needed. It's clear if a team is in a certain league, so you don't have to think about accepting or rejecting a bid, which is a problem with some other challenges where you have to abide by certain sets of rules. But before we get into our final challenge of today's video, why not check out my Pentagon Challenge video series or my 5-division Road to Glory by subscribing to the channel and checking out my playlists. Okay, on to our final challenge, and I think this would be a fun save to combine with maybe recreating a former manager's career. So basically, every player on FIFA is rated in these 6 areas in career mode. Before you start the career mode, pick 2 random numbers from 1 to 6. The first number that you roll will be an area you have to keep above 80 on every single player you sign. The second number you'll have to keep under 60. If you're unlucky, this might mean you have a team of under 60 pace players who are actually above 80 for dribbling. It might mean you have to play strikers at centre back because you've rolled 80 for shooting and 60 for defending. If you want to make things maybe a little bit less random and a little bit more fun, you could also just pick the numbers for your manager's choice. If you wanted to recreate a really attacking manager, maybe go for under 60 defense but over 80 for shooting or pace. These numbers, of course, are just total examples or guidelines. You could easily go up by 5 each time you get promoted. So start out at 60 for the high one and 40 for the low one, and by the time you're in the Premier League, you could have it back up to 60 and 80. You could even increase or decrease by a certain amount every season to make things tougher or easier if you're finding it a bit too bad. I've got no doubt that I'd struggle at all 3 of the saves we've mentioned today, but I'm sure you can see why they'd be super fun. As everyone who's watching this video is clearly a massive FIFA challenge fan, why not leave your best challenge in the comments below? If you're not really feeling the ones that I've suggested in today's video, make sure to check out the comments because I'm certain you guys are way better at creating these ideas than I am. If you want other FIFA save ideas, check out the playlist on screen, or if you want to watch one of my challenges, check out those too. But thanks for watching, I'll see you soon, cheers and goodbye.